This is the Loaded Radio Podcast.
All right, hey, it's Scott Penfold, and this is another edition of the Loaded Radio Podcast. It's great to be back here. Great to have you back as well for this week's episode. Now, I am going to be talking to Danny Case, who is the frontman for the band From Ashes to New, in just a few minutes here on the podcast, as that band dropping a few new recent singles, one being Nightmare, and the band working on a new album set to be released here in 2023. So, yeah, going to be talking with Danny Case from Ashes to New in just a few. I mean, just a great band too, man, out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Vocalist, keyboardist Matt Brandyberry being really the only consistent member since its initial inception. And Danny Case, vocalist for the band, being brought in July of 2017. He's been the frontman ever since, and doing a phenomenal job as well too. A pretty exhaustive, I think, process in finding him and bringing him into the group. The band being described as everything from like rap metal to new metal to rap rock to alternative metal, and even using elements of hip hop and electronica in their music too. So yeah, really cool band, man. I'm going to be talking to Danny in just a few here on the Loaded Radio Podcast. And after I speak with him, I'll be going over what's been going on in the world of hard rock and metal. Just when it comes to, well, I mean, the big thing for me right now, I think, and quite possibly for you too, would be the fact that Megadeth just played a big show in Budokan. Actually, their first at Budokan in Tokyo, Japan. And they were joined on stage by their former guitar player, Marty Friedman. They did 3 songs, Countdown to Extinction, Tornado of Souls, and Symphony of Destruction. There's been some great footage online you can check out. Some of it fan-filmed, some pro-filmed, as the whole thing was live-streamed live. It's going to be continuing to stream for the next couple of days, too. And, yeah, great to see Marty back up there on stage with the guys in Megadeth, particularly Dave Mustaine, I think, because, I mean, that really was, for a lot of people, I think, the lineup of Megadeth. That was that Rust in Peace era, featuring, Nick Menza on drums, Dave Ellefson on bass, Marty Friedman on guitar, and as well, of course, Dave Mustaine. So I definitely want to touch on that in just a few as well, and let you know who's going to be coming up in the days ahead on the Loaded Radio Podcast as well, okay? So stick around for that. But let's talk to Danny, okay? We got him ready to go now. He is the frontman from the band From Ashes to New. He's been a part of the band since 2017. They have a new album coming out in 2023. We'll be talking about that. And yes, great to have him here with us on the Loaded Radio Podcast. It is Danny Case. Danny, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us on the Loaded Radio Podcast.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today here on the show.
For sure. My pleasure. Yeah, it's an honor to be on.
Getting right into it, man. How's work coming along on the 4th album?
Oh, man, it's been done for a year.
Oh, really? It's done?
Yeah. We're all ready to go. We were kind of waiting for the right opportunity to release it. And obviously we put out like a couple tracks just to kind of get people excited and to not leave them hanging too long. But with this tour that we've got coming up and the rest of the year, that the way it's shaping up to be, it should be coming out this year.
Great. Any idea when this year? We're looking like maybe spring or summer, or?
I would assume sometime in the summer.
When it comes to the album as a whole, I mean, I've heard a few tracks. I think most people have. We've heard like Nightmare, Heartache, Until We Break. Is that the kind of vibe? What can people expect with the new record?
Yeah, there's a lot like darker and heavier vibes to it for a lot of the songs, and then there are a couple songs that are quite a bit more mainstream. Like we have a couple radio singles that we think are going to do really, really well. And they're definitely more mainstream, but they still feel like us. So most of the album is dark and heavy and really intense. And then we got a couple of like a little bit more lighthearted radio singles.
Just some of the tracks I've heard, like first off, I do want to talk about Nightmare, the latest single that you guys dropped. Killer video as well, man, and a great track. It's got the crunchiness there, but it could be played on the radio kind of a thing. Tell me about that track in particular.
Yeah, that one was a fun one. We started, I feel like we started writing it in the summer of 2021, and we wanted to have a really like big intense chorus and like try to implement some more like hip hop vibes into the verse. So like you can kind of hear like an 808 bass kind of in underneath Matt's parts. And we wanted to have all of the best parts of our genre, in that song. So like, we had just a real fat riff, a nice big chorus, hip hop vibes in the verse, some screaming, a breakdown. Like we feel like it checked off a lot of boxes for us. So we really like that song.
Now, the video, tell me about the making the video, because it's a killer video, man. It's really well done.
Yeah, we were just in front of a green screen. So
really? You never guessed that, man. It looks great.
Yeah, it's all green screen. So there weren't any set pieces, no props, no nothing. It's just us in front of a camera with our imagination.
I totally thought it was like you were on set somewhere, like you were actually out there somewhere, like in some big building doing that thing. That's great, man.
Thank you.
Now, another song I want to talk about is the track Heartache. What can you tell me about that one? How did that one come to fruition?
That one, I want to say it started with Lance had a guitar riff, and he had this kind of like almost kind of sounded like an Eminem song. I can't put my finger on it which one it was, but it kind of had like an Eminem vibe to it. And we're like, okay, let's throw some big drums in there, and let's really set like a hip hop tone for the verses. And when it came to the chorus, we were trying to figure out a chorus, and we actually someone made a comment in the room, something about like Evanescence, and Matt was like, that's a great idea. Like, let's start the chorus with a rap line and then have the singing come in.
Right.
And so that's just kind of how that one was born. And we're really proud of that track too. It's got a really like dark vibe to it. And I think a lot of the fans like it.
Yeah, it definitely has that dark vibe to it for sure. The other song I want to bring up is Until We Break, which features Matty Mullins from Memphis Mayfire. First off, how did Matty get involved with the track?
Yeah, so our drummer has known those guys for several years now. I've been a big fan of that band for a bunch of years, and I want to say I can't remember if we were simultaneously setting up the tour when we were doing the feature, or if one happened and then the other happened. But like, we just got connected through like appreciation of each other's music, and we were like, hey, we're looking for a feature on this album. Like, you want to come be a part of it? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. So we did that, and we had the tour lined up, I think, by that point. Mm-hmm. And so it was just kind of perfect storm. Everything kind of came together all at the same time.
Now, are there any other special guests on the album that you can reveal at this point, or?
Not that I know of.
No. Okay. So Maddie's pretty much the only special guest that appears.
There can always be like retroactively someone added in to a part that can like put their own part in. Like we did that with one of the guys from Hollywood Undead.
Right.
And that was a retroactive, like we took out a second verse, had him put his part in. So I mean, there's always a possibility that someone could jump on something, but right now there's nobody else.
Now, the actual song Until We Break, what can you tell me about that tune in particular?
The part about that song that stands out the most to me is the bridge, because it just drops down so low, and we just had this idea to just go as obnoxiously heavy as we possibly could. Yeah. And the first time I heard the instrumental for it, it literally made me laugh because it was just so obnoxiously heavy. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is awesome.
And like you said, it's like a big drop, like 1,000-pound weight. Tell me about the experience of appearing in the horror movie The Retaliators. How was that?
It was a while back. It was all the way before the pandemic, and when we originally shot our parts. Basically, this was like something that our label owner was doing as a project, and so he wanted to, incorporate a bunch of bands into it. And so I think we were actually working on Panic at the time, okay. That record. So it was in, late 2019, and we flew out one day. I can't even remember where we flew to. We were doing so much at that time. It was all just kind of a blur, but we flew out. We were in this like little church, and it was really awesome to get kind of like the full like movie set experience. There was a whole cast and people working behind the scenes. It was super fun to shoot. And it was just a really great experience. It was really awesome.
Now, did you get to see any of the other bands that appeared in it, like the Death Punch guys or Tommy Lee and those guys?
No, we were the only ones that were there that day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was the church scene, I think was pretty early on in the movie. And so we were the only ones there. And it was actually one of the last scenes shot.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Now
Everybody
you've
else was already gone.
yeah, definitely, man. You got the upcoming tour with Shinedown and 3 Days Grace. Do you know those guys? How do you feel about them?
Yeah, our drummer actually went out with them for a while to work for them because he's buddies with Zach, and they all seem like super awesome guys. We're really excited to be a part of this tour. They really do come across as a band that is most concerned with the quality of the show and how it is perceived by the fans. And that is just such a recipe for success for a tour. I hear the ticket sales are doing amazing, and we haven't really gotten to hang out with the 3 Days Grace guys yet. But we have touched base once or twice in the past. They all seem like cool guys. It's going to be a really great tour.
The 3 Days Grace guys, rather, are they're excellent guys. I think you guys are going to really dig being on the road with them. Now, like looking back at some of the history, going back to 2017, how did the band discover you and bring you into the fold?
Yeah, so I had put some random video up on YouTube. It was for I think Sumerian Records was holding a competition to pick a singer for some unnamed band, and all they had was an instrumental track. And the idea was write your own lyrics, write your own melody, record your part, and submit it. And I wasn't even really interested in the competition side of it. I really liked the song, and one of my best friends showed it to me. He's like, "Dude, you should do this." And I was like, I was going through something at the time, and the song really spoke to me, and I was like, you know what, I've normally never take part in these, but you know what, I'll do it, whatever. And so I recorded my part, put it up, never even looked back at it, never even checked to see who the winner was or any of that. And I guess when Matt was looking for a singer, that competition and all those videos was like one of the first things that he started looking through. So, he was scouring the internet, trying to talk to people, and he found that video and hit me up, and we started chatting, and the rest is history.
Well, so whatever happened to that song that you recorded? Like, is it still out there? Or?
It might be. I don't know if I ever privatized it on my YouTube. It could still very well be out there.
Oh, okay. What's the name of it? For people that want to check it out.
I don't even. The band didn't have a name. The song didn't have a name. It was really? Sumerian Records. If you were to look it up, I would say look up like Sumerian Records vocalist competition, something along those lines.
Now, when Matt gave you the call, like, did you was it an overwhelming experience for you? Was walking in sort of like an all around overwhelming experience for you?
Yeah, it's funny. We always joke about the very beginning of us meeting. He sent me a message on Facebook, and I had only seen the beginning of it, and it said something like, "Hey man, would love to chat with you about music." And I didn't know who he was. And I was like some random guy hitting me up to like do music stuff. Like I got my own band. I'm good. I don't want to like go explore other things. And we had one mutual friend. So he hit her up and was like, "Hey, I sent this guy a message. Can you tell him to get back to me?" And so she hit me up and was like, "Hey, Matt from the band From Ashes to New hit you up." And I had actually seen them one time when my old band was following Warped Tour selling CDs. I was standing outside the Free Monsters truck, and they had just started their set right when I was in that line. And I was watching, I was like, wow, this is kind of different for Warped Tour. I was like, but not in a bad way. Like, this is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So that was my only experience of them, but I at least knew of them. And that's, so I was like, oh my God, I remember that band. And so I hit him back up, and we got to chatting, about like mindsets about about music and goals and priorities, and all of ours aligned with each other. And that was pretty much it. One of the things that he said is that he hit up a bunch of different people, and many had the first question of, what's my pay going to be like? And I think that to this day, I still never asked.
Really, eh?
I was like, I don't give a crap about the money. Like, this is what my life is meant to be, and this is what I'm meant to do.
You know what, Danny? I do appreciate you taking the time here today, man. It's been fantastic talking to you.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
There he is. That's Danny Case from Ashes to New. And there we go, man. And we can expect that new album coming out from those guys in 2023. And yeah, man, the new stuff is pretty cool, man. Check it out. I mean, like, Nightmare is definitely a cool track to check out as well. Until We Break featuring Matty Mullins is a really good track there too. And of course, the stuff they did for the Retaliators movie, like we were talking about, pretty badass as well. Just a great soundtrack, actually. Speaking of that, like that Retaliators movie, it's the movie, very cool, but the soundtrack, just incredible, man. We've got members of Asking Alexandria, Motley Crue, Ice Nine Kills, and of course from Ashes to New on there as well. But hey, it's Scott Penfold here with you on the Loaded Radio podcast, and a lot of people are pretty hyped and excited and happy about the fact that a one-time Megadeth guitarist Marty Friedman rejoining his former band on stage at Budokan, the legendary, iconic Budokan in Tokyo, Japan, which is it's called the Nippon Budokan. And it's a Japan martial arts hall, often shortened to simply Budokan, indoor arena located in the Kyoto, Tokyo area of Japan. I mean, and this building, it's known for having a lot of great concerts, but it was originally built for the inaugural Olympic judo competition for the 1964 Summer Olympics. Now, its primary purpose is still to host martial arts events, but it's gained really its known fame. Especially for people who listen to rock music, as being a great concert venue with some legendary performances taking place there, and as well as some great live albums being recorded there. The Beatles were the first rock group to perform at Budokan in a series of 5 shows, which took place in June and July of 1966. July 1973 saw Santana perform at the Budokan. Of course, a lot of people know Budokan from Cheap Trick at Budokan, which came out in 1978. Just a monumental live album. As well, Bob Dylan at Budokan, which came out in 1979. And the venue, apparently it's really popular for recording live albums because apparently it's got good acoustics. I've never been there myself, but apparently it's got incredible acoustics at Budokan, and it's relatively large, and Japanese audiences are known for being pretty appreciative when appropriate but quiet during performances, right? Eric Clapton has played there. Getting into metal, Stormtroopers of Death released a live album called Live at Budokan in 1992. They played there. The list is really endless. There's been a lot of bands. We're talking everyone from Led Zeppelin to Deep Purple to Rainbow to Aerosmith to Kiss. That's just the 70s. It goes on. The list is endless. Right up until today, you got like Dream Theater, Judas Priest, Ozzy Osbourne, of course. Many, many bands have taken the stage at Budokan, and now Megadeth can add that to their resume as well, which I think is phenomenal, man. It's because, that has been a long time coming for a band with Megadeth's stature to finally grace the stage at Budokan. And as well, it was live streamed as well. If you're in my time zone, I'm in the Eastern time zone, possibly I know a lot of people who actually got up bright and early, like 4 a.m., dark and early rather, 4 a.m. to watch the live stream, just so they could see Marty take the stage with Megadeth again. Not just solely for that reason, of course. There's a lot of Megadeth fans out there who just wanted to experience the Megadeth show live from Budokan, right? But I think the Marty Friedman factor was really a big part of it. Now, just looking at Megadeth's set list that they did, and this is without Marty, okay? Marty didn't come in until about towards the end of the show. He didn't come out for the encore. It was actually in the first set, but it was toward the end of the first set. And but just the set list, though, at this point, we're looking at Hangar 18, Dread and the Fugitive Mind, The Threat is Real, Angry Again, Soldier On, Sweating Bullets, Trust, Conquer or Die, Dystopia, Tout Le Monde, and then Marty came out for Countdown to Extinction, Tornado of Souls, and Symphony of Destruction, at which point Marty then vacated, and the band finished off with We'll Be Back, Peace Sells, and then encore, Holy War's The Punishment Due. I think it would have been really cool to have Marty play on, Holy War's The Punishment Due. I think that would have been great. or Hangar 18, just because, and I'm just saying this because, I'm a big Rust in Peace fan. To me, Rust in Peace was one of my seminal albums growing up. I think it's one of the greatest metal albums of all time, hands down. Not just thrash metal, heavy metal. I mean, I'd say even albums of all time. That's just, I was so into Megadeth in the late 80s and going into the early 90s that to me, that was my band. And when Nick Menza passed away and when I found out about that, it really affected me. It hurt. It really sucked. But I think it's cool that Dave Mustaine and Marty Friedman have been able to maintain some sort of a friendship because, it's been said by other people that, Dave may not exactly be the easiest guy to work with or, get along with or maintain a relationship with. Personally, anytime I've met Dave Mustaine, he's been nothing but incredible and an absolutely awesome guy, and that's just my experiences with Dave. I can't say anything different, but I've spoken to Dave a couple of times, even hung out with him backstage at one point for a show. And he was just incredible and an absolutely amazing guy. Love Dave Mustaine, love Megadeth. But the fact that he was able to maintain a relationship with Marty Friedman after all these years, I think is really great. This whole thing really came together with just Dave picking up the phone and saying, hey, Marty, who lives in Japan, Marty Friedman's been essentially ingrained into the culture and living in Japan for years now. And he just loves it there, loves everything about it, which I think is fantastic. But Dave said, hey, we're playing in Japan in February. Do you want to jam? And then Marty was just like, yeah, sure. And that was really it. There was no big thing that led up to it. It was just a phone call between buddies, which I think is great. You know what I mean? Marty Friedman also recently being asked if he had a favorite Megadeth album from his time in the band. And he said that if you'd have to ask me at the time that I was in Megadeth, I would have definitely said whatever album we were working on at the time, because I can tell you with 100% certainty that anything we did when I was in the band was a complete effort to do our absolute best. And when it was finished, we all thought it was done. We signed off on it. We knew it was the best album and that we could make it where it really was and represented us at that period of time. Now, looking back over all these years, I really haven't heard anything in the details that I've listened to it when I was in the band, but I would probably say that my favorite record is somewhere between Rust in Peace and Countdown to Extinction. My favorite period of time in the band was probably Euthanasia and Cryptic Writings. All four great albums, especially Rust in Peace and Countdown, right? To me, that's the moment or really the time where I really embraced Megadeth as just one of my favorite metal bands of all time, certainly. But Marty going on to say, and by the way, this is courtesy of Jonathan Montenegro's My Three Questions 2, which he appeared on, and saying that his time with Megadeth, with the thing coming up, of course, the thing that just happened, he said it really forced him to think about Megadeth stuff, and it's been a while, and it's kind of fun looking back through all this stuff. Now, the Budokan concert, like I said, it was live streamed February 27th, available on demand for a couple of days after, because, not everybody can get up at 4 a.m. to watch a Megadeth concert, that takes some real commitment, right? But really cool because, it's the first time in more than 2 decades that Friedman has shared the stage with Dave Mustaine, with Megadeth, essentially. It's been over 20 years. Seriously, more like 22 years, 23 years. Yeah. So the payoff was there, I think, for hardcore Megadeth fans. Seeing that finally happen was just absolutely awesome. And the cool thing is, the fact that current guitar player Kiko Loureiro, who is just incredible, man. He's a phenomenal player. He was open to it happening. Dave went to him and essentially said, hey, you know what? What do you feel about, Marty Friedman coming up on stage and playing with us in Japan? And Kiko was cool with it. And why wouldn't he have been, right? He has nothing to worry about. The guy's incredible. But Dave Mustaine telling Rolling Stone that getting Kiko Loureiro and Marty Friedman together on stage is both geniuses on guitar. It's like a gigantic birthday and Christmas present for me. Now, I did mention that Dave and Marty, that they're able to maintain a friendship. I don't think it always seemed that way. There was an attempt back in, I think it would have been like around 2015, to get that classic lineup of Megadeth back together with Nick Menza on drums, David Ellefson on bass, who was still in the band at the time before his whole, masturbation issue, and Marty Friedman. And they actually got together at the 2015 NAMM show in Anaheim, California to discuss the reunion, which would have been just absolutely monumental. It was huge. But Friedman saying at the time that he turned down the Megadeth reunion over money. It came down to money. He said, he was be happy to do it, but he wasn't going to take less money than he was already making to do it. He'd been in Japan for more than 10 years, cultivating a career with solid rewards. He says, I was making money not only for myself, but also for my management and my staff. My manager has been with me 15 years. He adds, everything was sound and solid professionally, and when the offer came up to all of a sudden join Megadeth again, as long as I would not be making less money, I was ready to go. But I was certainly not going to take a loss to join a band that, frankly, at that point, didn't seem like they had too much to offer musically. A couple of members of the band had recently quit, and musically, I had hadn't heard anything that they've done in a long time. I didn't know about how relevant they continued to be in the music business. It wasn't like Megadeth was on the tip of people's tongues, at least not in Japan. I had reached to the point where people stopped immediately connecting me with Megadeth and were talking about the things I had done in Japan. Now, Marty also adding that another reason he turned down the Megadeth reunion was the fact that the group is largely seen as like a Dave Mustaine solo act. With a lot of people, with like a rotating door of members coming and going. I mean, David Ellison was probably the guy who spent the most time in the band, and he had like a couple of tenures in the band. And Marty saying, he didn't feel that kind of camaraderie like a good foursome should have, like Kiss or Metallica could have. Now, Dave Mustaine, according to him, he said that he was put off by Marty Friedman's financial demands back then when the whole reunion thing was under discussion. So there you go. I mean, things have obviously changed since, and again, I think that's fantastic that he was able to work that out and have Marty Friedman join him on stage. Now, a lot of people are going to be thinking, does that mean Marty's going to be back in the band now? No, it certainly doesn't. I don't think that's going to mean that in any way, shape, or form. I think it was kind of a one-off deal. It was sort of like a good, hey, we're glad this happened, very cool, but now we're going to go and continue the tour with the band that we have now, which, I mean, again, is great, but there's some great footage you can see of, Dave and Marty hugging it out and, playing together and stuff. And it's really reminiscent of that era of Megadeth. So definitely cool, worth a check out. If you've not seen it yet, you can see it at loadradio.com or via the live stream, which is going to be up for a couple of days still. You can check out megadeth.com for that particular info there. All right. But hey, don't forget, check out loadradio.com on a daily basis for all your hard rock and metal news. Also, the 24-hour radio station is there for you 24/7, man. Yeah, with live personalities, niche programming, and tons more, man. Hey, it's a full radio station of nothing but metal. The Loaded Radio app is completely free as well. You can get it there too, where you can listen to the station, listen to past podcasts, and get all your news and info sent right to your phone. And yeah, it's all just a click away at loadradio.com. Okay. Coming up in the next couple of podcasts, I've got some great people I'm going to be talking to. Talking like Frank Hannon from Tesla going to be joining us. Got the guys from Suicide Silence going to be joining us. Of Sulfur as well going to be joining us on the podcast in the weeks ahead. So that's the next few weeks of what's going to be happening right here on this very show. And hey, you know what? As always, thanks for tuning in. And we'll talk to you again next week right here on the Loaded Radio Podcast.
Loaded Radio.